Potential is everywhere. It's in our schools, our neighborhoods, and our future workforce. But while potential is equally distributed, opportunity is not. Welcome to the Empower Potential podcast, brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Bay Area. Every episode, we explore the stories, strategies, and science behind mentorship and how one consistent relationship can change a life and a community forever. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sheil, and you're listening to the Empower Potential podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. Our guest today, Tim Fan, is a longtime little in our program. When he was first matched with his big brother Jeremy, he was navigating the ups and downs of school, and now he's been matched for 8 years, forming an unbreakable bond that's guided him into college. With that guidance, Tim navigated the daunting college application process and landed at the incredible USC. He's currently studying political science and preparing for a career in law to advocate for the underserved. He was part of our 2024 honored match of the year, and his story represents a masterclass in resilience. Tim, it's great to have you here today. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Sheil. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so first off, how are things going for you at USC? Give us some updates, like how have things been between you and Jeremy as you've been off to college?
It's been really fun, of course. We're coming up on finals right now. I think it's in a month. So it's a stressful time for all of us as we, like cram for our exams, finish up some projects, and just kind of like squeeze in some little rest time before, the heat kicks back up. But yeah, I mean, it's it's kind of like a bit of a trial and error run. Still as a sophomore, I'm still trying to figure it out and trying to see what works. But yeah, I mean, I'm still having fun and being around friends, being around family, and also updating Jeremy about the stuff that's been going on has been incredibly helpful, and they've all been like incredibly supportive. And yeah, I definitely couldn't have gone through it without them.
Yeah, definitely understand the support system being very necessary, especially in undergrad. Um, so, how have things been with you and Jeremy? I know, being in college, being at USC, that's, obviously in LA, it's a little far away, but how have you guys been kind of keeping up and, making sure to kind of stay in touch with each other?
Yeah, so of course, like we're like we keep in touch through uh, we call each other whenever we're free, and we also text each other with like updates on our life, or like, if we see like a cool video, he'll text me and he'll be like, "Hey Tim, like check this out," Um, a few weeks ago, because Jeremy went to UCLA, I go to USC, so like we're bitter rivals, and so a few days ago he texted me, and then he was like, "Hey Tim, uh, my school's baseball team just swept you guys in the series," and I was like, "Oh man." It's but yeah, it's really funny. There's of course like the distance makes it really hard for us to like keep in touch. I obviously try to like um hit him up whenever I'm back in the Bay, and like hang out. But obviously he's a really busy person, and I also have a pretty busy schedule, so it's we try to make do with whatever time we have. But if not, then our cell phones work fine, and we always have plenty to talk about. It never really gets old, especially considering like our rivalry. Like it always just gives us like some like good old trash talk to kind of like throw at each other. But it's been really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I think I remember your speech at the gala last year. I think that was probably the funniest part was you guys kind of going back and forth and riffing about, college rivalries. So that's great. I mean, it's great that you guys are even able to still keep in touch while you're in college because I know, college is daunting and it's a sort of a new experience for you. But I'm really glad that you guys have been able to kind of keep up, at least texting and things like that, because I know that distance can also be a factor as well. But yeah, I'd love to kind of deep dive a little bit into some of your past and your bond with Jeremy. So I remember, you've previously described your bond with Jeremy as unbreakable and as acting like a safe space. Looking back at some of those social pressures and the academic stress of high school, how did having that sort of consistent, caring adult impact your ability to persevere when things got tough?
Um, so before I met, so for context, before I met Jeremy, I like I was a kid with like a lot of like behavioral issues at school, not necessarily to like my teachers, not necessarily like acting out in class, but more so like towards my peers. Um, because like it was just like hard to like kind of like express myself in a way that's like the most productive and in the way that I want to, and so like the stuff that comes out of my mouth uh, was perceived very differently from what I had intended. And so like I got into like a lot of fights back then, got suspended one time in elementary school. That's the thing that a lot of people didn't know about me. Like I got suspended um, in like third grade. And then like, like once like that happened, um, my mom was kind of like, like we got to try something new because like obviously like this whole thing current thing this wasn't working out, and so she put me in therapy. We have an office in Oakland. It's called Asian Health Services, and they offered like therapy um, for my insurance, and so we signed up. But the thing with like that agency um, from third grade when I started to sixth grade. It's like in the span of like 2 or 3 years, like before I met Jeremy, I'd gone through around like seven like therapists in that time span. And as a person who just wanted to like to have like an adult or like just someone in his life to understand like where he's coming from and to help him out with whatever was going on in my life, like it was really hard to just kind of like whenever like a new therapist came into my life to kind of like have to feel like I have to retell my whole life story to like catch up and like before we can make any like real progress towards like um for me to improve as a person, and for anyone trying to seek like mental health services, having that continuity of like having one therapist is very important because um, you build that kind of like chemistry between the two parties, and that's when real change and real improvement can happen. But in this case, there just simply was not any continuity, and so one person in the agency, she also spoke Vietnamese, which was easy to kind of like communicate with my mom. She recommended the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. And my mom and I just kind of saw it as like an opportunity to have a a continuous like person in my life to kind of like help me out, And yeah, we signed up, and a few months later, I got matched with Jeremy, and yeah, we I met him for the first time, um, and that was when I knew that like like this is the person that I needed, and I was right. And I've been really grateful to him ever since. Grateful for all that he's done to inspire me to be the best version of myself in all that I do. And even when during middle school and high school and even now college, when like things were very stressful and things were you, like when I just didn't know how to manage my stress, anxiety, he was always there. He was like, Tim, like, I got your back, And just hearing that and just having him like walk me through like everything that I've been through, like, it's hard to put into words like what that means for me, but I obviously would be in a much worse place without him than right now. So obviously grateful for all that he's done. And also like the whole rivalry thing between me and him like started on like the very first day when I met him because I am a Giants fan, he's an A's fan. And so he was just like, oh, we can't be friends, you know. So I'm glad that that has now expanded into something bigger. But yeah, that just kind of shows how much of a funny guy he is. You know, like he knows when things need to be serious. You know, he knows when to kind of like call me out on call me not sorry I don't say call me out call me in on stuff that he's like, hey Tim, like was that the most productive way you could have expressed yourself? To like, hey Tim, like, let's go have some fun, like let's mess around a little bit. So having that person who can like switch between the two, um, that's meant a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you said it was difficult to put into words, but I feel like you put it into words perfectly. Just like having that one consistent presence, especially, in those sort of tough days, is very important. Having some sort of backing, some sort of support, somebody who's just kind of who's there for you, and is always showing up for you. That's incredible that you guys, your match has sort of stayed the testament of time. Um, but yeah, I mean that's awesome. It's kind of funny to hear that your guys' sort of rivalry type arc has lasted so long, and it's also sort of reproduced into this college rivalry, which is like that's kind of an amazing like inside joke that you've just let us in on, which is great. So, yeah, kudos to our EMS team who was able to match you guys because it seems like you guys have such a great bond. Um, but yeah, maybe can you touch on a little bit of navigating more of those social interactions? How do you feel that Jeremy helped you practice social skills in a way that felt more natural rather than kind of like a forced interaction?
um so early on, like the first couple of years that like we like started hanging out, like he would take me to like public parks, public spaces, like where I had the opportunity to kind of like meet other kids. And like when we went to the park, you'd like play basketball and like with other kids that were there as well, and we just like shoot hoops. And like that also gave him like a way to kind of like observe me, like participate in the activity with us, but also like gave him the opportunity to just kind of like, like have it be like a natural interaction and kind of like observe how I interacted with people. And I remember like one time, um, like we were just shooting hoops like a few other like kids and like their parents. And there's this one, and then like I saw this one kid was shooting the ball, and I walked up to him and I tried to give him like a like advice, like unwarranted advice, on how to shoot the ball when I wasn't really a good shooter myself. Like and Jeremy saw that and he kind of pulled me aside and he was like, hey Tim, like was that necessary? Like did he ask you for advice? And like that, like he wasn't like direct, like, hey Tim, you shouldn't do that. He was just like more of like asking me a question to allow me to kind of like reflect on like what I did, what kind of like are the intended, not necessarily negative consequences, but what are like the outcomes that could have resulted from like me doing that. And like having that reflection kind of like allowed me to be like, oh, like that aha moment, like maybe that wasn't like the best way to like express myself. And so that, like it was just natural. And like that was just like one of the many examples that of when Jeremy kind of like pulled me aside and kind of like just asked me to reflect on what I did. And from there, like I just kind of like put the puzzle pieces together. And the more that happened, the more lessons that I've learned, the better I was able to use those lessons to allow me to improve my social skills. And it worked out like in like during the later stages of my middle school experience through high school and college, like I was way better at like socializing with people, making new friends, keeping them, and just having like a really fun time. Like in elementary, middle school, like I wasn't really invited to like a lot of like sleepovers or like other like like no one was like, hey Tim, like let's go to my house to play video games. And now like in high school and college, like all of a sudden like I'm getting like ask like, "Hey Tim, like, do you want to go over to my house to have dinner with me?" Like it just shows like the results are showing, and of course, like I sometimes I pat myself on the back for how far I've come, but I also want to acknowledge the many people that have helped me get to this point, including Jeremy. And Yeah, couldn't have done it without him.
Yeah, yeah, that's real growth right there. I mean, very powerful. Yeah, and I can also sort of see how just learning social cues and things like that can sort of help you be able to understand like friendships and relationships. So that's really powerful, that example that you shared. So thank you so much for sharing that. Um, and kind of touching on that point, do you feel like there's anything or just one thing that maybe Jeremy's talked to you about that you find yourself sort of going back to now that you're off in college?
Um, I guess now um Jeremy has kind of like shifted to like helping me manage my anxiety and just kind of like being there because I'm someone who suffers from generalized anxiety disorder, and it's kind of like one of the main triggers of my anxiety is my academic stress, the pressure to do like the best that I can in school, get straight A's, be at the top of my class. And Jeremy has kind of emphasized that, it's not it is never the grades that your grades that are like the most important part of your resume. It's going to be your experiences, and also most importantly, how well you can work within a team, work with other people. Because if you have straight A's and you're not well liked by your peers, probably not going to get the job or work very well within like a team. And he kind of like emphasized that like like there are so many people in this country, like there are millions of people in this country, like you think they all got straight A's, like you think they all were at the top of their class, you think they all went to top universities in America, and like that realization, like it's like of course it's kind of like, oh no duh Sherlock moment, but like it's kind of obvious, but like sometimes like it needs to be said directly to you to like kind of like make you realize like, oh, like I'm like, am I setting unrealistic expectations for myself? Do I really need to be doing doing like pushing myself, like, or like killing myself over like the grades that I get, do I need to be academically successful to have a successful life? Like what does a successful life even look like? So all like all of that like he's talked about with me, like that's kind of like what I'm running on in college right now, like asking myself like what kind of life do I want, like do I want to be like a billionaire or do I want to like make enough just so I can live a good life and also help others around me too, like and like support others that were in my position. And so I've kind of chosen like the latter as what I want to as my definition of living a successful life. And that is kind of like what I'm striving for. So not much as like being like pushing myself so much that like I burn out, but just enough so that um, I can sit at home or sit on my like sleep at night knowing that I tried my best and I just gave it my best shot, and that's all I can ask for.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's interesting that you bring that up. I will share that personally, I've had struggles with similar things as well, academic stress and pressure. So I think that's a really powerful reframing of mindset that Jeremy's kind of helped to instill, and obviously, like you have been sort of nurturing that mindset as well. So that's very powerful. And yeah, that's interesting. Kind of like reframing it in a way that how do you define success? And making sure that you're not putting so much pressure on yourself, just to kind of get that 100% grade. That's a very powerful sort of reframing of mindset that I think is incredible that you guys were able to kind of work through together. Um, so yeah, I do want to kind of like go back into your story in terms of like getting into college. I believe you shared in the honored match video that you initially felt your options were limited by your background. Do you remember a moment or a conversation where Jeremy was helping you realize that a reach school like USC was actually within your grasp?
Um, so this is the reason like I felt uh, like the top universities were out of reach for me at first, like when I was like looking at colleges to apply for, like in my I think it was my junior year of high school. It was kind of like a there's like two reasons. One, like it was like kind of like that imposter syndrome. Like I'm not sure like if I'm qualified enough for these colleges, will I even get admitted? Um, and it's just that fear of rejection. Like I'm not sure if I can do this. And two, it was money. Like I remember talking to him and I was like, I don't know if I'll be applying to like the private schools, you know. Like I think I might only apply to the UCs and the CSUs in California because I heard private schools cost us like so much money, and I'm not sure that I want to put myself in debt after I graduate to go to one of these private schools. And that's when he pulled me aside. And he was like, "Hey Tim, like first of all, like why are you selling yourself short? You know, like this." Um, just kind of like asking me to reflect on like what I've done in high school, um, making me realize that, you know, like I've done so much more that I've given myself credit for. And it's, you know, like shoot your shot. You never know. Maybe one ball might fall in the basket. And so just ask me to kind of like take that approach when applying to colleges. Like, hey, like if one attempt doesn't go in, like shoot another shot. One will go in eventually. And that's kind of like the mindset that I've adopted when I applied to college. And the second uh and like and the second part was, you know, he made me realize that hey, like private schools are very genuinely very wealthy because they have like big endowments that are like funded by like very rich private donors or like alumni. And yeah, that like that big endowment is that usually means that they're more generous with financial aid than even public schools. And so he's just kind of like given like my background, like I might be surprised that oh private maybe a private school will end up giving me more money or will ultimately be cheaper to attend than like a UC. And that ultimately ended up being the case. Like USC was like the cheapest option for me, surprisingly. But yeah, so um, after he talked to me, and I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's apply. And I applied, you know, to like all the UCs and and like some private schools. And I didn't apply to any safety schools, only like the my reach schools, because I kind of like had that mindset like oh, like if I don't get into any of these schools, then I'll just stay home and do like a couple of years of community college to get myself like, you know, ready academically and mentally for a 4 year college. Um, I honestly was not expecting to get in like anywhere. Like I thought it was going to be like flat out rejections, like straight down the list. But when March came, you know, like I opened my decision letters and, you know, it it was really emotional for me, you know, like when I opened that letter from USC, like I remember I just kind of broke down like crying, you know, like I was like, this is a school that I've heard of since fourth grade. Like I was like, I really want to go to this. This is one of the schools that like I'm like, I would really love going to this school and kind of like seeing it coming to fruition like now and like understanding that this is a real possibility for me. Like all of that, like I was just like overwhelmed with emotion thinking about all of that stuff. And of course, like a lot of people have helped me with my application process. Um, and I never want to forget that. And I think it's important to kind of like pay it forward to other people applying to college. Like I've had like younger friends that were applying to college this cycle or last cycle that kind of like reached out and was like, "Hey Tim, like what does the process look like? Like, hey, can you read over my essay? Can you give me some suggestions? Can you write me like a peer letter of rec?" And like all of that, like I'll never say no because I do truly believe in like, paying it forward for all like the help that I received when I was applying to colleges. And yeah, so I just have Jeremy to thank for, you know, not only helping me realize my full potential and um like the possibilities, the endless possibilities that come with my life, but also to kind of like help me realize to like it's important to like pay it forward to the people who might be asking me for help later on when they do end up applying. So all of that, like I have him to thank for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a powerful piece, the paying it forward piece especially. Like, I love that, Jeremy was kind of able to obviously help you in that process and instill that confidence in you to, really reach out and kind of apply for those reach schools, even if it felt like, maybe you would get rejected from all of them. I know myself, like applying for college is not an easy process. And I definitely can sort of understand the feeling of like, oh, I'm not going to get into any of these schools. Should I even apply and things like that? So, I'm really glad to hear that Jeremy was able to instill that in you. And now that you're, in college, that you're also kind of like passing it on to like the next generation as they're coming up too. So that's great, man. That's awesome, and I'm so happy for you that you were able to get into, a school that you sort of dreamed of since you were, a little kid. So that's incredible.
Yeah, I think I first heard of it in like a movie that like I watched in like a class where like it was filmed at USC because like like a lot of movies were filmed at USC.
Yeah.
And I did more research on that school. I think I remember I ran home on that day, opened my mom's computer, and I typed in University of Southern California, and the camp like I was just blown away by their campus, and like it said like, oh, it's one of the top schools in the country, and I was like, oh my God, like I have to go to this school, um, of course, like I have other options. I had other like
Right, right.
options, other top schools as well when I was applying, but USC was always there,
Yeah.
like since day one, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just kind of like a deja vu moment, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. So yeah, kind of on that point, obviously applying to college is, I mean, it's such a long process and it can be an anxious process. Um, how do you feel that having a mentor to talk to, helped you sort of push through, especially when things got tough?
Um, I think it's just the not the like knowing that Jeremy's going to be there for me no matter what. Like he's going to have my back. Like no matter like if I hit rock bottom or if I'm like as successful as it can be, like he's just going to be there like no matter what. And like that thought, you know, um makes me like feel comfortable like reaching out to him whenever times get tough for me, and just kind of like him like cheer me on like, hey Tim, like you got this, like if there's anyone that I think can do this, like it's you. Like just like that those words of encouragement and support, like it just means so much to like a kid who's just like struggling. And because of that, like every time like I'm able to like bounce back twice as hard, and just go out there and just be the best version of myself and like everything that I do. And like also just normalize coming up short, and just knowing that like failure is an option, failure is okay, but and using failure as a way to bounce back and learn from it so that you can avoid those same mistakes in the future. And so just having him to you know as a way to kind of like um, provide me with that mindset, I was able to like kind of like take that mindset and approach it with that mindset in everything that I do. And yeah, I think talking to him about everything. Um, really helped with everything that when it got tough.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong. You've got your sights on law school next, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I just wanted to confirm before I ask this question, because I know you were talking about really like sort of giving back and giving back to the community, giving back to the next generation, things like that. Um, what kind of fueled you to go down that advocacy route? And do you feel like there's any connection between like what Jeremy has provided for you and what you'd like to provide for others?
I think, of course, like it's very early on in my undergraduate career, so like I haven't really given it much thought, as in like what like field like I want to go to of law. But I did like I'm like leaning heavily towards like the field of like criminal justice, because like as we both know, like like the criminal justice system in this country is imperfect, and uh, there are certain demographics of people in this country that are unrepresented in the criminal justice system or treated with bias. Also with immigration too, like you see like what's happening like everywhere in this country during this time of year, and like, and I was kind of, and that like kind of like made me thought of like going into a field like that, to kind of like represent people, not just from my background but also people who like everyone who identifies as someone who comes from a disadvantaged background, or who's felt like they don't have a voice in our country or in our justice system. And I do think it's important for a country who prides itself on um, being a melting pot for every different culture and identity, to feel like they have a voice, an adequate voice, an equal voice. And so I just like being a lawyer, like I just want to help, with that process and that movement of like, hey, like at the end of the day, like we're just people, like regardless of the color of our skin or gender, who we choose to like. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Who we like, um, who like whatever, um, you know, that should not diminish one's value as a person. And so, um, like talking to Jeremy and um, you know, um, taking his definition or like his framing of like what does success look like to me. I kind of uh, like chose that from like to have chosen that for myself. Like success means me helping as much people as I can, um, and that is what's going to be like fulfilling for me in my life. Um, and yeah, I mean, I feel like that's like that's just that connection. I mean, helping like just talking me through like what does success look like, and I just kind of like chosen that answer for myself.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know. Those conversations seem like they have been very important for you, not only just as, as an academic, but also just as a person, like giving back to, communities that have been disadvantaged and, kind of having that heart for service. So glad that, Jeremy's been able to at least sort of get those conversations started and get that thinking started for you. Um, so, we've talked a little bit about your match, but one thing I always love asking our guests is if there's a moment that signifies the words empower potential to you. Being that you've been part of our program, as a little, is there anything in your match that, has kind of signified like the empower potential, where Jeremy sort of empowered you in your future?
um, I feel like um, the words empower potential, like I feel like that those two words perfectly represent like my like Jeremy's relationship with me, just being there and just kind of like making me realize that, hey, you can do this. Like this is something that is within your reach. It reminds me of this quote by Marianne Williamson that goes along the lines of our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And for me, like I feel like that's in terms of like my life, like that's um, kind of represents like my imposter syndrome with like like oh I don't feel like I can do this, like this is too much. um i I don't know if I'm capable, who am I to be successful, who am I to um live my best life, and so like thinking back to like that quote that I said earlier, it Jeremy kind of helped me realize that like success isn't something that you um success isn't just something like a divine intervention, like oh like hey you're chosen to be successful, or like it doesn't just happen to you out of nowhere. Success is because you've worked for it, and you've taken the opportunities that are given to you to be successful, and you capitalize on them. And when you do that work, like you of all people should be deserving of those opportunities to be successful. And yeah, that's like that, like connecting back to the words empower potential. um when Jeremy's like talked me through like the imposter syndrome of like whether or not I can get into like a top school, or um just being there and just say, hey Tim, like you don't have to be afraid of failure. I got your back. You can always you're going to bounce back. Like I'm confident in you. I think that's just kind of like unlocked my ability to kind of like see what I'm capable of. And when I do end up seeing that vision, then I'm more like motivated to just go out there and just capitalize on it by myself. And I only have him to thank for that.
Yeah. And listen, Tim, you've become an incredible young man yourself, so you got to give yourself some props there. But yeah, I'm so glad to hear that your relationship with Jeremy has kind of fueled and you feel like it's ignited your potential. Because I mean, I feel like that's really what we're about here at Big Brothers Big Sisters is really kind of seeing the potential of young people just thrive. So along those lines, my last question for you is. Um, for a young person who might be feeling a similar, anxiety or just feeling like, man, I don't know if I have a future, sort of like what you once felt, um, what would you tell them about enrolling in Big Brothers Big Sisters just based on your experience?
I think the big thing is just kind of like recognizing that it's okay to need help. It's okay to admit that you don't have the answers. It's okay to admit that you feel lost. And I feel like when you come to that realization that, hey, like I need someone to help me out, I think it will be easier to make that choice of like enrolling in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program to, find a mentor that can potentially help you with all that's going on in your life. And I think when you normalize like needing help, when you normalize that, hey, like I need some more answers from someone else, I think making that decision is a lot easier. And I think you're going like when you approach that decision with like an open mind, um, and it like an excitement to learn new things, and like a motivation to kind of like improve yourself as a person. um I think like anyone can have a positive experience with having a big brother or a big sister. And I think it's really important to uh, have that realization and to be motivated to learn something new every day. And that's kind of, and that motivation and that mindset is um, how I'm dealing with stuff right now. You know, being motivated to be the become a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. And Jeremy has certainly helped me see it that way. And I think with that mindset, anyone can have a positive experience from this program.
Yeah. Well, that's a great period to put on this episode. Tim, it's been a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, we appreciate you being on.
You too. Thanks for this opportunity, Sheil. And yeah, I hope this helps.
Yeah. And thanks so much to our listeners for tuning in. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, or you can find us on your favorite podcast platform so that you don't miss our next episode. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Empower Potential podcast. If you found yourself nodding along today, either agreeing with something that you heard or simply enjoyed hearing from our community, we invite you to join us in our mission to connect Bay Area youth with caring, consistent mentors. We have youth right here in the Bay Area waiting for that person. Head over to bayareabigs.org to learn more. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you tune in for our next episode coming soon.